It's the ML Sports Platter, back with you all over the major platforms. Download, subscribe, rate, and review, and follow ML Sports Platter on YouTube with a subscription as well. Let's talk some Bills football, and who better to bring on than the beat man and insider, New York Upstate, my guy Matt Parrino, and co-host with Ryan Talbot of the Shout Buffalo Football Podcast. It's all brought to you by Burn Dairy and Batavia Downs Gaming. Matt, how are you? Welcome in.
I'm great. Caught up on a little sleep after what was a pretty cool game last night, huh?
Yeah, it really was. And let's start with that. When you look Bills, when you look Ravens, how was it won? How was it lost? Immediate. What comes right to mind? Top thing, one on the Bills side, loss on the Ravens side.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind on the Ravens side is the turnover, right? I mean, that was kind of what everybody was waiting for in that game. The Bills were able to generate 2 in the first half in the playoff game a couple months ago. Lamar was pretty perfect, and so was the Ravens offense as a whole. And Mark Andrews had a trouble hanging on to the ball last year, whether it be fumbling the ball or dropping the ball in the passing game. None of that really reared its head, and that's why I think Baltimore was up 40-25 late in the game. And what I think we also saw play out on the Bills side is Josh Allen put the cape on and remind everybody why he won the MVP award last year. And this was always my argument for it. I always conceded that Lamar Jackson had the better stats, right? But it's not a statistical award. The name of the award is most valuable player. And when you have the most dominant offensive force at the running back position in the same offensive backfield as yourself, that has an impact on you. That it has an impact on the numbers you're able to put up. And I think what Josh Allen has done, elevating a guy in Keon Coleman, who ends up being one of the stars of the show last night. And we're, a couple months removed from people talking about him as a laughingstock, right? Like lowest in the league when it comes to advanced metrics in terms of separation, his inability to win versus press man coverage, all the buzzwords we've heard around Keon Coleman. And you leave that game and everybody's talking about him. And I think Josh Allen deserves the credit. Not only does Josh Allen deserve the credit, but Keon Coleman heaped the credit onto him. He said that one play against Jair Alexander, when I asked him about it in the post-game press conference or locker room, he wanted to give all the praise to Josh Allen, who noticed something about the matchup, gave Keon some directions, and that was the end result. So I just think the way that this offense is built and the way that Josh Allen continually sets NFL records continues to showcase why he's the best player in the NFL right
now. And the stats aren't that far apart from last year either. That's the Lamar, the pro Lamar thing. Look at the touchdowns. Look at this. Look at that. And it's 5 total touchdowns more. That's all it is. And the yards, you can talk about the running. They're close enough. And then the non-stat part, I would agree with you. You lean a little towards Allen. That's not a knock on Lamar. It's just I thought Allen deserved it. Speaking of Josh Allen, is he getting better? Is there a higher ceiling we don't know about? What is the ceiling coming off of the MVP season and this first game already? Are we going up and up more than we thought? Where are we at with this dude?
Yeah, and I think it's even coming to the point in his career. Like I think about Aaron Rodgers and how good he was early on in his career, and he was progressively getting better. But really, it was those last couple of years in Green Bay, not 2022, but 21 and 20 when he won the back-to-back MVP awards. I mean, that is in the beginning stages of the twilight of his career. And I think Josh Allen as a passer has that potentially in his bag. He's somebody that is incrementally getting better in the passing game. The throw that he made to Coleman where he went up on the ladder and made that catch, that is a perfectly placed ball, intermediate boundary throw. And I think a lot of the film gurus came out and said this wasn't a throw he was making when he came out of college at Wyoming. You think about the Josh Palmer, the anticipatory throw in between 2 defenders at that second and third level. Like that's special stuff. And so I think, yeah, he's getting better. He spends so much time working on his craft, from the digital mapping on his technique to his throwing motion, to his footwork. He's always in the lab fine-tuning things and trying to perfect what he does on Sunday. So yeah, I don't think that we've reached like this is just what Josh Allen is going to be. And I think that he's so much a student of the game and has a love for the game that puts him in that rarefied air that he's going to continually try to evolve and become a better version of the player that he already is.
2 more quickies for you, Matt, here. Matt Parrino talking Bills football. on the ML Sports Platter, brought to you by Batavia Downs Gaming and Burn Dairy. Make sure you follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Parrino. Does a great job with Ryan on that podcast, Shout Buffalo Football Pod, and of course the New York Upstate coverage. What's the advice for you to Bills Mafia with finding the balance in this team? Meaning, these games are fun. They're great again. Allen's a superstar. They're a top team, great brand. Bills Mafia, national prime time, win on the road, win at home, deep playoff drives. And then January hits and Chiefs. How do you find the balance of enjoyment, the ride, but yet the fair part is the other one where, and I know it's hard. I know only a couple teams have gotten through KC. I get that. I know where we're at here on both sides of this. Where's the balance of fun, enjoy, ride, etc., but narrative also being over here where window, got to get at least one of these rings with this QB?
I get it. I get the anxiety around what a career, like on the heels of 2 decades ago, having a generational quarterback in Jim Kelly, having those 4 Super Bowls and coming away with no rings. Like, there is just this anxiety that's built up in the fan base. And, I think what makes it a little bit even more intense is the love affair that's gone on between Allen and the fan base, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's a genuine want, not only for the title for the fan base, but the title for him, the guy that came into the league. And, we remember the quotes, parody of a prospect, right? Like, he's never going to be able to be an accurate quarterback. And, the Bills are silly for trading up and taking Josh Allen. He's not a first round talent. All the things that were said about him when he came out. I think the Bills, Bills fans in a lot of ways, they're able to relate to that, because I think that's how a lot of people look at Buffalo. I mean, go back through the years. I remember when Tom Brady was coming to town and he had a quote about, there's nothing to do in Buffalo. I hate kind of going in there and traveling through. Willis McGahee had a famous quote at one point talking about the city of Buffalo. And like, there's a stigma about it. And I think that those two entities came together in a way that's really special. And there's a true love there between the two sides. But I do think that if you think back and put yourself in the drought, and you experience the year after year, and no offense to any of the guys like Fitzpatrick, I enjoyed Ryan Fitzpatrick. I thought that was a really fun team. Stevie Johnson and Fred Jackson and some of the players that were on that team, Kyle Williams, but it wasn't what you've seen over the last 5 years. And you're literally watching one of the best players to ever play the sport. And it's in Buffalo, and it's a guy that literally part of his identity now is this city. Like, I can't ever imagine him wanting to go anywhere else and play. And I think just that alone, it's a very, very, people that like football usually are competitive people. They want to win. But I think Sean McDermott said something very recently that I thought was interesting, is like, the wins and losses are so fleeting. The focus really should be on how you do it, how the community aspect of the way the team is built and the way that these guys interact with people. I was talking to somebody the other day about Keon Coleman, who had gone on a kind of a tour of some of the local elementary schools and middle schools and so on and so forth. And they just raved about, what it meant to all these kids, the time he took and the seriousness. Like, you could do it and like kind of go through the motions. But I think that they put a premium on guys coming in here. Deion Dawkins, who said it recently too, he's never leaving Buffalo. When you have that kind of era where the team culture meets the city's identity, that's special stuff. And I think that you could take enjoyment out of that. And the fact that, listen, they're banging on the door. Peyton Manning was banging on the door for years and years and years until he finally broke through. And I do think even the most critical Sean McDermott haters, for lack of a better term, want to see him succeed. Most of them, at least. And maybe there's a portion that will never forgive him for 13 seconds and will never kind of get over that. But at the same time, I do think the way things are structured right now, and the relationship specifically that Allen and McDermott have, the synergy with Bean and the way the organization runs, I think as currently constructed, this is the best chance at it. To break it all down, say things don't go the way you want, another playoff exit, you have to truly trust that Terry Pagula is going to make the right decision on who's going to replace, whether it's Sean, whether it's Brandon, whether it's both, however you want to do it. I just don't trust that to be the case. I don't know if you're necessarily going to get better than what's in place right now. And I just think sometimes sitting back and enjoying the fact that if Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl with all of what I think is fighting against it, right? The era, the AFC, the gauntlet, all those things, it'll make it all the more superior. And I feel like Buffalo, after 3 decades, 4 decades, whatever it is, to have that possibility would, if I put myself back in my fan hat, wearing my fan hat, that would be enough for me to really invest in this whole thing. But I can't tell people how to fan. You're going to fan how you're going to fan. I don't like when people try to tell people what they should. I have an uncle who texts me all the time and he's just off the wall. I got a group chat with a bunch of different buddies, and there's some level-headed guys, and there's some, first sign of trouble. Derrick Henry breaks a big long touchdown run, and it's bop, 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 every expletive in the book, and they're firing. People are going to fan the way that they want. But man, if you're not appreciating and enjoying this run of success and contender status, you're not doing it right, I don't think.
Look, if you're a Bills fan and McDermott wins it, you better forgive him, number one, because he's got it. He's done something that nobody did in the franchise, and also everything else gets kind of put away in that realistic way because it's a Super Bowl. It's the first one in franchise history, so you better forgive him for 13 seconds. But again, has to get to the top. And you don't have a fan hat on because you got a beautiful head of hair, Matt. That's the difference between me and you. I'm wearing the fan hat because I felt like it doing the interview, and I don't have that hair anymore. I have one more for you. It's non-football. I've been dying to ask you this question in under a minute or so that I have left, and I've already held you long. I wanted to ask you a journalism question. I like to ask people, if you were 18 years old today, attacking the business the same way, I want to do this career. The world's changed. Social media, digital, modern stuff, right? Some of the traditional stuff matters, but people sometimes don't go to school and they do what we're doing right now, but you and I have a different background to it, right? Like, I remember doing mini discs and all sorts of stuff and learning how to write leads and do monologues at St. Bonaventure and grinding, and no cell phone even.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do it the same way right now as an 18-year-old Matt Parrino? Because I do it the same way.
Yes, because like, I don't know. Like, I think like you look at somebody like Joe Marino, who basically, I think he's told his story a bit and talked about, how he got into it. He didn't love his line of work, and he started doing the Draft Network stuff, and the Bill stuff kind of popped up. Like, what he's built to me is a blueprint for anybody that wants to get into this space and talk about football or baseball or basketball or whatever you want to talk about. There's so many more ways to do it. I was really passionate about wanting to be in locker rooms. Like, as a kid, and what I mean by that is like interacting with professional athletes and getting a chance to tell their stories and getting a chance to get to know them on a more meaningful level, and, maybe take some of that and put it out to the broader audience. So for me, it was always going to be about going to school to work for an outlet that would allow me to do that. But if you just like really want to just talk about sports, there's so many ways to do it now. AJ Sobalski, who's now with Trainwreck Sports, he just went back to school. He was kind of, petered around the media space. He got a couple of gigs. He interned for me. He was working over at the Batavia Daily News for a little while. And then he just got to the point where he was like, you know what? I'm a Bills fan. I want to be a Bills fan. I want this to be something that, I experience as a fan. And I do think that like when it's your 9 to 5 job, well, not 9 to 5, like 9 to 12:30, whenever you're on all the time,
5, 8 at midnight.
It changes. It changes the way you, like last night, like that was one of the coolest games I've ever watched, I've ever been at. But I didn't experience it the way that everybody, I was, as the minutes were dwindling down, I had a story kind of written based on the way the defense played. And I had a lot of, kind of stuff laid out. I had to kind of change on the fly. And a lot of times, in those moments, you're not experiencing it, the highs and lows the same way, because you're almost super stressed trying to make sure that you can get something done before you got to run down to the locker room to interview players. There's so much going on in those like 10 to 15 minutes. So I wouldn't trade it. I love what I do. And I was willing to trade that for what I get to do, because if I'm ever here able to chronicle what this team does for the fan base that I spent my entire life being a part of, and I still feel like I'm a part of it. Maybe I don't root for the team in the same way, but I'll always root for the team and the town. Like, that's in me forever. Like, my family, my son is a huge Bills fan. My wife is a huge Bills fan. Like, you have to go in there in a locker room, and you have to be objective, and you have to bring some level of accountability to what the outfit is doing. And I think a lot of players and front office folks respect that. But at the same time, it is a balance that if you do want to get into this business, like a lot of people say, I want to cover the Bills. I was the same way. And even then, when I made that decision, I didn't realize how much I'd be giving up when I got here.
Yeah.
But I personally, for me, was still willing to make that sacrifice to get to do what I do.
Fair enough. Syracuse.com, New York Upstate Buffalo Bills insider and beat reporter, also co-hosting the Shout Buffalo Football podcast with my man, Ryan Talbot. He's Matt Parrino, does an amazing job. That show's great. Go download, subscribe, follow all the things you do in today's day and age. This interview here brought to you by Burn Dairy and Batavia Downs Gaming. Stay, play, dine, and win at Batavia Downs Gaming. Check out packages now at BataviaDownsGaming.com. Matt, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Take care, buddy.